much higher, so high, can we get much higher, so high?
It's been 4 months since the last upload on this channel. It's funny cause I basically said I would be coming back to upload more consistently since the video before that came around 11 months ago. The reason for the inconsistency is not that striking. I was just busy doing my schoolwork while also spending time with the most important people in my life. And during that time I found myself occasionally going back to YBA. I liked its fast-paced, non-M1 Stunner Simulator PvP system that encouraged people to experiment with builds, combos, and playstyles, either via Colosseum or Metal Bull Run. Because of this, I think it is one of the best mechanically competitive PvP experiences on Roblox. Don't quote me on that. On the other hand, I am sad to see that YBA has not evolved PvP-wise as much as one would hope. Numerous issues still plague the game, from unbalanced metas to game-breaking bugs, some of which have persisted for longer than the recent major updates. I can't help but wonder, what can I do to improve the experience of players on this JoJo game, from a non-developer point of view? So for the past 2 months, I set out to do some research about YBA's PvP issues by talking to people around the official YBA Discord server so that I may eventually upload my first Handsy Boy style video minus the obsessive ripping on the developer's part, giving my recommendations for both other players and also the developers of the game. But before I proceed with what I found out, let me just share with you how awful that experience was. You'd think that talking to people would be easy as pie, and to a certain extent I would agree. But these are teenage YBA players and they can be somewhat unhinged. There were multiple instances where me and my team would get so close to being reported and subsequently banned from either the server or in the game, or both. At first, we went and sent some surveys to people, but since they have never seen a Google Forms link before, they immediately assumed that they were IP grabbers. Because of that, I had to switch from sending survey links to just asking people the adjusted survey questions directly instead. And even then, we were still suspected of suspicious activity. One of them thought I was a bot and blocked me, just because I quickly copy-pasted a message I sent to another person who asked the same question. Another one made a joke in the general chat about me getting banned for asking these questions, and knowing that I've had so many close calls just to perform my research, I did not appreciate that joke at all. If a mod received multiple reports about me surveying and interviewing people, it can very well be possible that I would get punished. This says a lot about what needs to be improved with the community, as well as YBA's management, but those are not the focus of this video. Anyway, I ended up cutting my research short. Thankfully, I was able to find out a lot of things even though I didn't reach my goal of respondents. So what my team learned after talking to more than 100 different YBA players is that some issues can be more prevalent in some regions than others. These can be categorized as North American regions and non-North American regions, which are basically anywhere else outside of the United States. For players in the North American region, they would usually point out issues such as bugs, balancing, stale metas, etc., or issues that the developers have more control over. As for players outside of the North American region, the issues being pointed out in this region range from exploiters to high-pinged matches, which are issues that evolve around the technical aspects of Roblox, as well as its performance. This was interesting because despite the distance between regions like South America, Southeast Asia, and Europe, among others, from North America, the trends and the issues still form the way I describe them. Perhaps this can give us insights on the amount of YBA players or Roblox users in general, and JoJo fans that there are in North American region in comparison to the rest of the world. Or perhaps the number of players per region of the world is influenced by something else, like the popularity of games and the average performance capabilities of players' machines. Either way, these issues clearly continue to affect YBA's player base, which has resulted in its player retention slow yet steady decline into the 10 to 20 plus thousand range for a game that used to reach a concurrent active player count of 20 to 40,000 people. In any case, my job is to share my knowledge so that people who watch this video may also learn how to handle these issues as regular players. I'm gonna go ahead and tackle the ones that we can basically do nothing about for the first set of issues: high ping and exploiters. High ping can be caused by two things. One, your internet speeds just aren't very good in the first place. And two, you got queued into a server that is not located in or near your region. For the first one, I'm sorry, but the only thing you can do is getting better internet. It can help you to close down tabs in your browser that you aren't using to conserve your bandwidth, but I doubt that would improve your situation that much. As for the second one, there's nothing you can really do if you get queued into laggy Colosseum matches. This is somewhat more prevalent for non-American regions, simply because Roblox as a platform generally favors North America, as cross-region lobbies are more likely to be made in NA servers, just by the sheer quantity of Roblox servers in that region. So whenever I get queued into a laggy Colosseum match that exceeds 200 ping, which you can check by enabling performance status in your game settings, I just immediately leave and queue up for another one. It can take a while, but I would eventually find a match set up in my region. The same cannot be said about MBR. However, because the way that a player gets queued to a match is by them picking a lobby from a set of pre-made lobbies. Although this allows players to queue with their friends and other players in these MBR matches, it does not have a region or ping indicator like how some PvP games on Roblox would. What the developers can do in this regard is to add region and ping indicators, just like I mentioned, so that queuing into MBR matches would become less biased for NA players, and also because joining into MBR matches takes significantly longer than the Colosseum game mode. As for the side of exploiters, there's no other alternative than for you to just re-queue into another match. It is highly unlikely that you would win PvPing against an exploiter, and even if you somehow do beat them, you would just be making them feel satisfied by entertaining them and therefore encouraging them to continue exploiting in the future. Now, I sympathize with the developers of YBA because they can only do so much to mitigate exploiting instances in their game. As the game continues to become more and more popular, more and more scripters are also encouraged to create exploits for the game. Thankfully, the brunt of applying a reliable anti-cheat may soon no longer be solely the responsibility of the developers but also by Roblox itself. Back on the 10th of September, Roblox announced during their 2022 Roblox Developers Conference that they would be focusing their efforts on server-side cheat prevention, which would make it significantly harder for exploiters to continue with their client-side cheating mechanisms. And on the 12th of October, in the Roblox Developer Forum, Roblox officially announced that Bifron, a leader in anti-cheat solutions that currently covers AAA titles like Apex Legends, Valorant, and Fortnite, will be helping Roblox in building a more robust anti-cheating system. We're just gonna have to wait and see how this all turns out. For the next set of issues, I'm gonna talk about the ones that the developers of YBA are expected to fix. bugs, the stale meta, and balancing issues. I am sad to admit that I don't really have a good grasp on the bugs present in YBA. This is partly because the official YBA Discord management has once again removed or hidden the channel they had for documenting known bugs. The respondents didn't do well in remembering the bugs either, and instead went on to answer that hypothetically bugs existed in YBA. With such a large net cast with this assumption, I do agree that bugs exist in YBA. The only ones I have encountered so far, however, involve the use of Tusk Act 4 and Cream in PvP, and how these stands often get stuck on the ground in certain maps in Colosseum when they use Wormhole Uppercut and Void Surprise, respectively. The same thing might happen too when using Sticky Fingers, Floor Zipper Uppercut, so while fixes have not been made for these bugs, I would advise trying to use other stands for now. If you have encountered other bugs in YBA's PvP, do share them in the comment section below. Finally, we have the issue brought up to me about balancing and the stale meta. For a while, some of the most popular stands to be used were the World Alternate Universe, Silver Chariot Requiem, and Star Platinum, among others. Because of how useful and easy to use their moves are, later on after the Stone Free update, a lot of these meta stands were nerfed or readjusted. The World AU lost its third knife upgrade, and its gun is now cancelable. SCR's Arrow Barrage now applies a buffer cooldown for stand barrage after using the move, and people can now block during SPs and Inhale, which had its duration also reduced. I think the developers started to notice that people use these stands a little too much compared to all their other stands, and so decidedly to make adjustments so that the meta would not be too stagnant. So, when people brought up the issue that the meta has remained stale to a degree, I believe them. But also, just because some of the old meta stands remain popular, doesn't mean that the meta remains stale. Instead, the meta evolved in a new direction where everyone is generally using a wider variety of stands. Except of course for the ones that are just absolutely situational or just bad compared to all the other available options like Mr. President and Tusk Acts 1, 2, and 3. Nowadays, because of the new execute mechanic that YBA introduced, more people have started using gold experience. The same goes for Crazy Diamond, which also followed a recent surge in popularity due to a rework that heavily built upon its past bare state. Because of the buffs that Silver Chariot has had in recent updates, more people started using it despite not having any time stop resistance. That is not to say though that YBA is not without any unbalanced builds at all. Personally, some stands are just inherently better than others because of the nature of their abilities and powers, while some heavily rely on how good the player is in using the stand. And as a player, it is your decision to choose whether to personally handicap yourself by using Purple Haze against King Crimson Requiem and then start complaining about balance issues after taking a loss, or to actually use something more viable for PvP like D4C Love Train, Gold Experience Requiem, and even Scary Monsters. But even in my experience, I've always found that a really good Beach Boy user that put in the time to improve their aim and land their combos can beat even most the World Over Heaven users. So, my advice to the people that have issues with balancing, try to first look for the stand that you really think vibes with your playstyle. Experiment with it and put in some effort in practicing how to use it. And once you encounter a stand or build that you think is unreasonably strong, it may pain you to do it at first, but I highly encourage you to switch to that stand. If more people start using that stand, word will spread about its popularity. The developers will notice and they will have to make their priority to balance the stand in future updates of the game. To those that felt you didn't learn anything from this video, I understand. But the reality is, most players in YBA are young and still learning. And sometimes the best way for someone to learn is through reminders of the obvious. Because even some obvious things in life are often ignored and eventually forgotten. However, even if the issues were to hypothetically be resolved, I don't think that YBA's player count would increase significantly. YBA is already at the forefront in the domain of competitive Roblox JoJo games, and even PvP games in general. If they want to maintain this position not just by the brilliance of their PvP mechanics, they should start treating their player base better. Give them incentives for playing the game, not just measly coins, corpse parts, and cosmetics, and the occasional event prizes that only feel satisfying for a very brief period of time. Make them want to play the game not just through skin grinding. I cannot stress this enough. Games should not only have good mechanics but also a good user experience, and it's up to YBA to take the step or not. For those who stuck around, thank you for watching the entire video. I'm sorry I haven't been uploading a lot like I said I was going to, but I will try when I can. That's all for now. If you like what I had to say, do consider subscribing to the channel. Like, comment, and share the video if you want. But for now, I'll see you next time.